Over the holidays, Wendy and I spent time in Tamales Bay. It rained the first couple of days, keeping us inside. I wrote up a sky report in my journal. Thick, heavy rain-filled clouds gather, casting deep shadows across the green hills and turning the bay a deep and ominous gray. Whitecaps rip across the water and the winds whip through eucalyptus trees. A gang of crows takes to the sky, circling round before roosting on the tops of cypress trees. After 2 days of storm watching and lots of eating and reading, the sky broke and we headed out to hike the Drake Sestero Trail in Point Reyes National Seashore. The air was cold and clear and clean. The bright sun kept us warm as we walked. On our way back, we saw a man birdwatching on the bridge that crosses Home Bay. His binoculars focused on a white bird swimming on the water. I dug out my binoculars to see what drew his attention. I guessed duck. "What kind of bird is that?" I asked. "Oh, it's a hooded merganser," he said, and went on to tell us about the bird's markings and migrations and mating habits. "Beautiful duck," I said, showing off my deep knowledge of waterfowl. But instead of brushing us off, Mark invited us in, sharing more stories about birds in the bay. And soon Wendy and I became the #1 fans of the hooded merganser. It turned out that Mark got interested in birding after a breakup with a girlfriend in 2004. He turned his attention to ecology and began taking classes at City College. For a class project, he and his classmates, among them photographers, musicians, editors, and writers, and all bird lovers, decided to write a book about the birds at Heron's Head, a city park located in the Bayview between the recycling center and Hunters Point. We listened, fascinated by his story and his love of birds. It was one of those unexpected, joyful encounters that comes when you least expect it. We said our goodbyes and gratitudes and headed on our way. Back at the parking area, we ran into Mark one more time. He came over to the car and handed me the book, a field guide to 100 birds at Heron's Head. There was only one word of how I felt: overjoyed. I insisted he autograph it for me and promised I would head down to Heron's Head as soon as possible to begin learning about the birds in my extended backyard. The following week, book in hand, binoculars bouncing on my chest, I spent the morning at Heron's Head. In an hour, I found greater and lesser scaup, brown pelican, great and snowy egret, and black-necked stilt, and too many gulls to try and identify. What a joy! It never ceases to amaze me how a brief but spectacular close encounter, say one with a bearded and burly birdwatcher, can change your life. In the days since meeting Mark and joining the Hooded Merganser fan club, I'm paying close attention to what brings joy into my life. The return to semi-lockdown and the heavy headlines have made it hard. But I keep searching to expand my joy playlist, one bird, one unexpected close encounter at a time. Shortly after my birding adventure, I stumbled upon a story by Reverend Tish Warren Harrison, an Anglican priest, writing in the New York Times a piece entitled, "How I Freed Up Time to Daydream." I love daydreaming. It is one of my great joys and secret pleasures these days. In an effort to make more room in her life, she decided to leave Twitter, that pesky bird, because it was taking up too much of her time. It was hard at first, but she noticed a change. Tish Harrison writes, "But leaving small moments empty, silent, and in some sense useless is a tiny taste of a life wrapped in silence and mystery. In the same way, our days, which are so full of work and thinking, of arguing and learning, of disappointments and confusion, of striving and creating, we must have moments when nothing much is happening. But leaving these small moments empty is what makes the difference between noise and music." The next day, I wrote in my morning pages, maybe the thing is not to think so much about manufacturing joy than just keeping an open space for it to emerge and come into our lives. We need rest stops to dream. We need space for the close encounters that bring joy into our lives. On a recent hike in Reinhardt Regional Park, I shared with my friend that these days I feel like a pill bug, that armadillo-like creature that, when exposed, flips over and curls onto themselves, also known as conglobulation, I'm trying, conglobation, a fancy word that means to form a ball. We sat on a bench eating our lunch, listening to the birds whose names I don't know, calling out from the thick of the trees. As we talked about our pill bug tendencies, a group of hikers came by and said, "Did you see the ladybugs?" No, we hadn't. Turns out, just down the path from where we sat along the stream trail, a local resident named Jeremy Brotman built the Ladybug Hotel. That hotel, made partly of old cedar and redwood birdhouses, nestled between fallen trees and abundant fern, is where the ladybugs converge. You look carefully and find them, those 2-spotted and 5-spotted and 3-branded ladybugs milling the hotel lobby and dining on aphids in their well-appointed rooms. Yes, we wanted to see that. No offense to the pill bug, but there's something joyful about watching a ladybug convention unfold before your very eyes. Seeing the colorful congregation of ladybugs mingle room to room, thinking back to the crowd of pelicans and gulls, the ducks and egrets along the shores of Heron's Head, makes me wistful for church. I daydream about the joyful noise we make when we come together again, the singing, the sharing of meals, the occasional squabbling, the hopes and the vision that we want to bring to life. I miss it all. These unexpected encounters of late remind me of a poem by Barbara Cooker entitled, "Sometimes I am startled out of myself." Like this morning, when the wild geese came squawking, flapping their rusty hinges, and something about their trek across the sky made me think about my life, the places of brokenness, the places of sorrow, the places where grief has strung me out dry. And then the geese come calling. Don't let lockdown keep you from looking up at the sky. Maintain safe distance, but don't close the door on an unexpected close encounter. Raise your joy receptors, search out the sounds that will make your playlist richer. strip your armor and take flight. Joy is calling to you. Make time to look and listen. You'll be startled by what it has to say.